Hi guys, my name is Sophia and welcome to my Save Space Kitchen. So today I'm going to be making my jollof rice. You guys, this jollof rice I posted on Instagram and TikTok and I got a ton of questions. So I thought what better time to get on camera and literally cook this rice with you guys, and let's just go through that recipe through and through. So here I am. This is the face behind this page. We're going to make this jollof rice and it's gonna be bussin'. Now let's get into our recipe. Safespacekitchenette. Make room at the table. Come on. Safespacekitchenette. It's running by ready. Safe space. These are the main ingredients for this particular recipe. Whatever I don't have here, I will list it in the caption down below. So check it out so that you can get the exact measurement. But here I have my onions, some garlic, some ginger, some green and red pepper, and I have my Scotch bonnet pepper. This is pretty spicy, so you want to be careful how much you're using, okay? And here I have my sliced onions that I'm going to be using to fry my oil once I'm done with my beef, okay? And here I have my rice. This is regular long grain rice. I get this from BJ's. You can get it from the African market or wherever. It really doesn't matter. As long as it's long grain, you will be fine. And then here I have my chuck roast beef. I prefer this one because it gives me like it has a beautiful texture to it once it is cooked. And so it is perfect for this particular recipe. If you get your beef from the African market, even better, right? But for us that don't have the privilege of having an African market close to us, this works perfectly. And then here I have my tomato puree. This is just canned tomato puree that I put in here. And then I have my tomato paste. This is Hunt's tomato paste. You can use whatever tomato paste you got. It really doesn't matter. Then I have some rosemary that is hidden here. I'm going to use this to blend, I guess add to my holy trinity, my onion, my garlic, and my peppers, and blend this together. Dried rosemary is more intense, and so I prefer to use it, especially when I'm making stews and sauces. It's pretty intense, and it boosts the flavor, if I can say that. Okay, so then here, all of these spices that you see here, I will list it in the caption down below. But that's what I'm gonna use to cook my beef. I'm gonna cook my beef to get the broth. And once I have that broth, that's what I'm going to use to cook my jollof rice in the end. So that's basically the reason why I cook it before I fry it, okay? So now let's really get into the cooking now. You guys, talking and recording takes a little bit of practice. I don't think I'm there yet. So here we are, back to voiceover. Anyway, so I went ahead and I added my spices to my meat, then I added my water. I add enough water because this is going to be the main liquid that's going to go into my jollof rice. So I added about 4 cups of water here, and I'm simply going to go ahead and cook this until it is nice and ready. Normally when it boils over, that's when I turn it off because I'm going to fry this too, and I don't want to overcook it, okay? So that's all that I'm going to do here. So my beef is nicely cooked, as you can see. So I'm going to go ahead and separate my beef from my broth, and then I'm going to go ahead and sit my broth aside until it is needed. But the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and fry my beef, okay? So that's the next thing. You want to fry your beef until it is nice and brown. Pay attention though, because you don't want it to burn, all right? So that's all that I'm going to be doing here. So my beef is nicely fried and it is done. It's looking beautiful. Look at that. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and set this aside, and then the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and separate my oil. I fry my beef in a little bit more oil than I need for my jollof rice. So of course I have to separate it, right? I don't need all that oil for my jollof rice. I got a lot of comments on TikTok and on Instagram that, you know, people were like concerned that I was using a lot of oil, but I do separate it. If it makes you feel any better, I definitely do separate it. Then I go ahead and I add my onions, my sliced onions, and I fry my onions until it is nice and fragrant. In my Instagram and TikTok video, I added my curry powder at this time. You can absolutely do that if you prefer that. What that does is it makes your oil more fragrant, right? Either way, you can add it now or you can add it later. It's still going to be fine. So here I go ahead and blend all of my onions, garlic, ginger, and my pepper, my sweet peppers. I have green pepper and red pepper in there. Then I add my rosemary as well. What I don't do though is I don't add water to my my blender, and I do this because I want to reduce the cooking time, right? If you have a good blender, you don't really need, you know, to add water to your vegetables when you're blending them, depending on what you're using it for, right? So to cut down the cooking time, I don't add any water. All you got to do is just layer your onions at the bottom and then add everything else. Onions contain a lot of water, and so you will be able to blend it, and you know, everything will come together beautifully just like that. You see that? And it gives you a beautiful thick consistency as well. So once this is blended, I'm gonna go ahead and just transfer this into my pot, and then we're gonna go ahead and just let this simmer on medium heat until a lot of the water because you know onions have water too, so you want that water to evaporate. That's why when you add more water, the cooking time is prolonged, right? But if you don't add water, then because you're gonna have to rinse the blender as well, so you know, water kind of just prolongs cooking time. So I always try to, you know, avoid it as much as possible, right? So yeah, I hope that makes sense. I think I'm all over the place, but I think that makes sense. But anyway, I'm gonna let this cook until a lot of the water has evaporated. So my sauce has been cooking for about 10 minutes on medium heat, and as you can see, a lot of the oil has popped up, and that's an indication that a lot of the water has evaporated, right? So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add my tomato paste at this time, and then I'm going to go ahead and mix it in really well to make sure it is nice and well incorporated in my sauce. And then once that's done, I go ahead and add my crushed tomatoes as well. You can absolutely use tomato sauce if that's what you have, or you can even blend some diced tomatoes and add that as well. I do that too, so you know, just whatever tomatoes you have, absolutely, you can just blend it and throw it in there. And just make sure that you're cooking it until it is done. Tomatoes tend to be a little bit sour, so if you don't give it time to cook, then you're gonna taste that sourness, right? So just give it time to cook. So I'm gonna go ahead and just let this cook until it is done. I normally will let this cook for about 10 to 15 minutes on medium heat. So my sauce has been cooking for about 15 minutes on medium heat, and it's looking really good. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add my necessary spices, like my needed spices at this time. I'm going to go ahead and add all of that, okay? So it's going to be like my bay leaf, my curry powder, my homemade all-purpose spice, some salt, some beef seasoning, and my homemade herb marinade. I will link that in the description down below because I have a video on how to make it. I make it and then I freeze it into cubes like so, and then I use it whenever I need it. So I'm going to use 2 here because I want it to be pungent in my my stew, okay? It smells so good and it's just perfect. I use it in a lot of my recipes, so you know, if you want to give it a try, I will link it down here and you can check it out. So I go ahead and mix everything in really well to make sure it is nice and well combined, and I'm just going to let this simmer for about 5 minutes to let everything familiarize. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and scoop some of my sauce onto my beef. I do this because I don't know, I just feel like it tastes better because you know the meat, if you're Ghanaian, you know this meat is a little bit dry, okay? So adding a little bit of sauce kind of helps it, right? It boosts up the flavor as well. So I go ahead and just scoop a little bit of my sauce and I mix it in, and then I just set it aside until it is needed, right? So that's all that I'm doing here.
So the next thing that I do is I go ahead and I rinse my rice, then I add my rice to my sauce, and I go ahead and I mix it in really well to make sure it is nice and well combined. You want to make sure your rice is nicely coated in your sauce, okay? You want to make sure every grain is nicely covered in your sauce. Then once that's done, I go ahead and I add my beef broth at this time. Then I go ahead and mix it in really well as well. So here I went ahead and got rid of the fat, the fat that separates from the broth. I got rid of most of it, so I thought I'd share that with you guys. And then I just pour it in there and then I mix it in really well to make sure it is nice and well combined. So once my broth has been added and it's been mixed in really well, I do a taste test and then I adjust my spices and seasonings, right? Remember, the broth contains a lot of spices, and if you adjust your spices before you add the broth, you might ruin the food. So you add your broth first, then you taste it, then you make the necessary adjustments. So here I went ahead and added a little bit more salt and a little bit more beef seasoning and a little bit of water, okay? And I go ahead and mix this in really well, make sure everything is nice and well combined. Then I cover this up and let this cook on super low heat for about 25 to 30 minutes. I'm not going to touch this. I'm not going to do anything to it. Just let it cook on super low heat. No mix, no stirring or nothing like that. You don't want to do that because that's when you break your rice into small pieces and it becomes mushy. We don't want that. So just leave it alone. So this is what my rice looks like. It's been cooking for about 30 minutes on super low heat. And as you can see, a lot of the water has evaporated, but a little bit of the water has, the sauce has settled up top as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just mix this in really well to make sure that everything is nice and well combined. But when I'm mixing, I'm really careful because remember, the rice is a little bit soft now. So you want to do gentle stirrs, okay? Gentle stirrs from here on out. That way you don't break the rice, okay? So I go ahead and mix it in really well. And then the next thing that I do is I go ahead and I add aluminum foil. Like I cover my rice with an aluminum foil and then my pot, the pot cover, right? And I do this because I want to retain heat inside of the pot while my rice cooks on super low heat. Jollof rice will burn on you if you increase the heat while you're cooking it. So your best bet is to cook it on super low heat while, covering it with like an aluminum foil or like a parchment paper, okay? Just to retain heat on the inside. That's the best way to cook your jollof rice. If not, you're gonna burn it and you're gonna ruin the food. So that's all that I'm doing here. So my rice has been cooking for about 20 minutes on super low heat, and this is what it looks like. It's looking really good. And at this point, we are almost done. So I'm going to go ahead and add my fried beef at this time. Then I'm going to go ahead and give it a nice mix, okay? You want to stir it, but you want to do gentle stirrs only. But make sure that you are able to mix in your beef with your jollof rice evenly, okay? You don't want your meat to be on one side and your rice to be on another side. You don't want that. So just mix it in really well, but do it gently. Once it is nicely mixed, I go ahead and cover this up and let it cook for about 10 minutes maximum. Because remember, the jollof rice is already it's almost done, okay? It's really almost done at this point. It just needs a little bit more heat, and also everything needs to be familiarized. And that's the reason why I'm cooking it for about 10 more minutes. And then that's it. So my jollof rice is done and this is what it looks like, and this jollof rice has cooked to perfection. This is how I like my jollof rice. The texture is perfect, okay? The thing with jollof rice is you always want to take your time to cook it, because if you rush through it, your tomatoes may not be fully cooked and then it's going to taste sour, which, if that happens, you probably will lose the flavor, right? And then if you add too much water, you probably will lose the texture too. So take your time with your jollof rice and just cook it slowly, and I promise you it will turn out great. Jollof rice today.
I'm gonna go ahead and just plate a little bit of this. Jollof is very versatile. You can have it with salad or some kind of sauteed vegetables, but today I'm just gonna have it plain and simple, just like this. You really don't need anything else, but you know, of course, you definitely can choose to eat it with whatever you prefer. But yeah, you guys, this is what my jollof rice looks like. I hope that this video has answered a lot of the questions that I got on my my Instagram video and on my TikTok. And yeah, this is what it looks like. Anyway, this is the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. While you're here, you know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe. Give me a comment down below. Let me know what you think about this particular recipe. I have tons of videos on my page. Check all of them out. Let me know what you think. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Help me grow my channel, y'all. It's been a hustle, okay? We're not going to get into that today, but thank you all so much for sticking it out with me. I truly appreciate all of you. And until next time, I'll see you in my next video.